All right, CodeX Report number 8. It's Saturday, about noon. I'm gonna talk about Libya and some of the other things that are going on. Um, oh my God, I don't even know where to start with Libya. This is such just a fiasco. You know, the the globalists have a plan, and they don't care what it takes to get it done. And the plan is that they want, you know, the Middle East at war. They want, you know, Israel to have to retaliate or whatever. What they're trying to bring about the war of Armageddon. And whether you believe that or not, there are people that do believe that it needs to happen. And I don't really know where else to go with that because the there's so much information to cover. There's riots in Bahrain and Yemen, and Saudi Arabia sent 1,000 troops into Bahrain, and started shooting the protesters. Um, Now there's like 100 people dead in Syria. Are we gonna invade Syria now? I mean, come on. The only way that we're gonna solve this problem is for the U.S. to get the hell out of Iraq, get out of Afghanistan, get out of Libya, pull the Fifth Fleet out of the Middle East, and drill our own goddamn oil because we have more oil here that we have access to than they have in the Middle East. And if you don't believe that, go and look at some of the documents. And don't go look at, Al Gore and his douchebag environmental fucktard friends. Go and look at the actual statistics. Go and talk to people. If you can find someone, go talk to someone who worked up there. You know, there's way more oil than what they're telling us. If you don't believe that, go and research ultra deep well drilling, the Russian ultra deep wells. They went down to I don't remember if it was Vietnam or one of the countries down there, Thailand maybe, and they went down and they said, um, "Look, let us drill for oil, and we'll pay for it. If we hit oil, we want 50% of it." So of course the government says, "Sure, all right, go ahead and drill." So they go in, and at 42 or 44,000 feet, they hit oil. You know, the American oil companies had gone in there and said, "You're barren. You've got nothing here." So at that point you have to ask, why do we go in there and say, there's no oil, but then the Russians go in there and drill and they hit oil? They're not working off the same parameters. We, as in the United States and the public sector oil companies and the oil drilling people, they don't necessarily understand the reality of what's going on with that. And I'm not going to say that I do necessarily, but I do know that the oil the oil that we have been using for the last 100 years, there is no mathematical way that it came from dinosaurs and buried swamps and forests and blah blah blah. No, it's mathematically impossible for that to occur. And if this is my problem with the establishment, because they'll say that, oh, this oil reserve, which is 10 million barrels or whatever, they don't tell you the actual size of the reserve. They tell you how much oil there's there. Um, they don't really explain it. So they say that oh, this was you know some type of biologicals that were buried in a catastrophe, or well, they don't like to say catastrophe. They'll say it was somehow buried, and it rotted and fermented and became oil. Well, No, because in order to have a catastrophe that would be able to cover something like that, I mean, they're you would know that it happened, you know. And I'm not saying that we know everything about the planet. You know, we just discovered that the Gulf of Mexico, or most of the Gulf of Mexico, is a giant impact crater. You know, the Yellowstone supervolcano. You know, someone just figured out that the caldera is like 160 miles across. I mean, we don't know everything about the planet. There's no way that we can possibly know everything about the planet. So I think the people that are telling you that, you know, this is the way it is, there's no way that they can be right because they don't know. um, Back to the oil. There's so much oil because I personally think that the Russian theory on it is correct. You know, it's abiotic oil. It's not from biological, um, you know, trees and plants and animals and whatnot that got buried. You know, I mean, you drill down 5,000 feet and you hit, you know, 10 million barrels of oil. They don't explain how big that is. You know, that would be a cavern that would be, oh, like, it, I'm gonna make a guess. You know, say like 8 to 10 football stadiums. You know, and compared to the size of the Earth, that's not that big. But when you think that, you know, that entire deposit of oil is the remains of supposed, you know, biological material, it it you know, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, and that's the problem. You know, that's why people don't believe the government. They don't believe the oil companies. You know, um, GE and you know GE needs to be. They need to pay their damn taxes. They need to stop shipping our jobs out of the country. Um, GE built the reactor number three in Fukushima. You know, there's 23 other reactors of that exact same type in the United States. And, you know, I just wonder how many of those are on fault lines. You know, um, GE this year, the company made $15 billion and $5 billion profit, and they paid no taxes. But yet, you pay, you know, at least half of what you make for taxes, either state or federal or food or sales tax or gas tax or whatever. And it needs to change. It needs to stop. We need to just simply tell the federal government no. No, we are not going to give you our money anymore. We are not going to fund your wars anymore. We are not going to fund, you know, subsidization of the rape of America. Um, and same goes for the banks. You know, we're not going to keep paying you because you just continue to rape the people. And that's the only word for it. You and the government and the oil companies are criminal organizations, and you need to be prosecuted under RICO and the antitrust laws. And you need to sit in prison. And, you know, hopefully it's a private run Abu Ghraib or, you know, Gitmo style prison because that's what you deserve. Because because of your want to make more profit, you have directly caused the death of people because they cannot pay for food, pay for gas, and pay for energy to heat their homes. They have to choose. And what that comes down to is people are going to die because of that. It's as simple as that. And if you don't agree, prove me wrong. Um, I need to also restate something from one of my previous videos. I said that Drudge had, you know, 9 billion visits, and he has had 9 billion visits, but it was in a year. So it was not quite the time frame that I had mentioned. He's had 900 million visits in 31 days and 31 or 32 million hits um, daily. And the biggest show on TV is only getting like 3 million a day, 4 million, and that's where the news is at. That's where the truth is at. I mean, say what you want about Drudge or Alex Jones or Beck or whatever. I'm going to say this for all of them. No one can see past the decisions that they cannot understand. No one can see past information that they can't understand or process. There are certain things that will simply be beyond certain people until they, inside themselves, make that connection. And you can beat them over the head with it all you want, but until they're ready, they're not going to see it, and that's just the way it is. So go out, watch everyone, listen to everyone, read everything that you can get your hands on, and make up your own mind. And that's what it comes down to. Peace.